What if one of America's most dependable allies suddenly stopped showing up? What if millions of loyal visitors, who pumped billions into the U.S. economy, simply vanished? It's not a hypothetical. It's happening right now. A massive and growing Canadian boycott of U.S. travel and spending is underway, and the consequences are spiraling across the border. Fueled by rising tariffs, political jabs, and a growing sense of being disrespected, Canadians are sending a message that's louder than any protest sign: they are staying home, and they are taking their dollars with them. This isn't some fringe movement or online hashtag. This is a seismic shift in one of the world's closest bilateral relationships. For decades, Canada and the United States shared more than just a border. The economic integration was so deep that millions of Canadians regularly traveled to the U.S. for vacations, snowbird retreats, shopping sprees, and business trips. That foundation is now cracking under the weight of political decisions and inflammatory rhetoric that many Canadians say have gone too far. The turning point came earlier this year, when the White House announced a sweeping 25% tariff on Canadian imports. The move, reminiscent of the Trump-era trade wars, didn't just hit Canadian exporters, it hit a nerve. And it wasn't just the economic cost. The insult was personal. Pundits and politicians south of the border stoked tensions with remarks that Canada was acting like a privileged 51st state, a jab that many in Canada found deeply offensive. It painted a picture of a partner taken for granted, treated less like an ally and more like an afterthought. Canadians responded, not with marches or boycotts in the streets, but with travel cancellations and closed wallets. This was quiet defiance with loud economic consequences. According to a recent national survey, over 60% of Canadians now say they will avoid traveling to the US in 2025. And this isn't just a poll result buried in a report. It's being felt in every corner of the US economy that once counted on Canadian dollars. Airlines have started cutting flights. Canadian carriers slashed dozens of planned routes to major US cities. United Airlines dropped a Toronto to Los Angeles connection set to launch this May. Travel agencies are reporting a 40% drop in US-bound bookings by Canadians. 1 in 5 scheduled trips has been scrapped in the last 3 months alone. Emails to travel agents cite specific grievances, the new tariffs, unfriendly border policies, and anti-Canadian rhetoric. The numbers don't lie. In March 2025, the number of Canadians returning from the US by car fell by 32% year-over-year. This is the largest decline since the COVID travel shutdowns of 2022. And this isn't just about long-haul vacations. It's hitting cross-border shopping trips, weekend getaways, and even sports tournaments. Canadians who once filled hotel rooms and packed outlet malls are now staying away. In New York State, particularly in the Adirondacks, business owners are already seeing the impact. 2/3 of tourism-reliant businesses in the region have reported a drop in Canadian customers. One bus tour operator in Buffalo, who typically books dozens of school groups from Ontario, said 2025 revenues are down over 80%. He's had to lay off tour guides, cancel contracts, and watch as bookings dry up for the busy summer season. It's like we vanished off their radar, he said. But now it feels like we are returning the favor. Florida, a traditional haven for Canadian snowbirds, is also feeling the pinch. In places like Fort Lauderdale and Naples, motel owners and condo managers, who rely heavily on long-stay Canadian retirees, are watching their occupancy numbers collapse. One motel owner said bookings from Canadian guests, which normally make up 70% of his winter income, are down to just 30%. Restaurants are empty, golf courses are quiet, and rental cars sit unused. It's a ghost town, one waiter said, and the high season buzz has been replaced by anxiety. And this isn't just anecdotal evidence. In 2024, nearly 20 million Canadians visited the United States, spending more than $20 billion. According to the U.S. Travel Association, that supported over 140,000 American jobs across tourism, retail, hospitality, and transport sectors. But in 2025, that spending is projected to plunge by at least 20%, representing a potential $4.3 billion loss, plus $200 million in foregone sales tax revenue. That's money local governments use to pay for firefighters, police, schools, and public infrastructure. In Buffalo, Niagara, sales tax revenue fell 7% in February alone, directly tied to reduced Canadian cross-border traffic. More parking lots that used to overflow with Ontario plates are half empty. Shop owners are sounding the alarm. We can't just replace millions of Canadian customers overnight, one retail manager said. They are our lifeblood. So, why are Canadians walking away from what was once their favorite destination? The answer isn't just about dollars. It's about dignity. Many Canadians feel the relationship has become one-sided. For years, they crossed the border not just to spend money, but to connect with American culture, family, and businesses. But now, they feel unwelcome. The updated Canadian travel advisory warning citizens about phone and laptop searches by U.S. border agents without cause struck a deep chord. It wasn't just about security, it was about trust. One Canadian traveler explained it this way: "Why would I spend my money in a country that slaps tariffs on us, ridicules us in speeches, and treats us like a joke at the border? I'll take my family to Europe. At least there, we are treated like guests, not suspects." For many, this isn't about politics, it's about principles. The boycott has become a symbol of Canadian self-respect. They are saying, you don't get to insult us and still expect our money. And the sentiment isn't fading. If anything, it's deepening. Social media platforms are filled with Canadians proudly posting about their decision to cancel US trips and redirect spending elsewhere. Influencers are sharing travel alternatives, from Mexico to Portugal, and travel agencies are pivoting to meet the demand. One major Canadian travel agency said that interest in non-US destinations is up 58% compared to last year. Even Canadian schools and organizations are re-evaluating long-standing partnerships. Some school boards are canceling planned field trips to US destinations, citing student safety concerns and diplomatic tensions. Youth hockey teams that once traveled across the border for tournaments are choosing domestic competitions, or even looking to Europe instead. It's a quiet revolution, but one that's sending shockwaves through border towns and tourist hubs across America. Lawmakers are beginning to take notice. In Michigan, a border state that relies heavily on Canadian commerce, one state senator publicly warned that continued hostility toward Canada would hurt local economies. "We are not just losing tourists, we are losing jobs, small businesses, and regional stability," he said. This is not just bad diplomacy. It's bad economics. But reversing the damage won't be easy. Canadians aren't boycotting the US over a single policy, they are reacting to years of perceived slights and the sudden realization that their loyalty may have been taken for granted. Rebuilding trust will take more than economic incentives. It will require genuine, respectful engagement, something many Canadians feel has been lacking in recent years. Meanwhile, US communities are bracing for a tough year. Summer, typically a peak season for Canadian travel to the US, now looks to be the quietest in decades. Canadian families who once packed up the car and drove south are now booking cottages in British Columbia or vacation packages to France. Snowbirds are sticking closer to home, and business travelers are choosing video calls over flights. For some Canadians, the boycott has sparked reflection on long-term habits. "I used to think of the US as a second home," said one retiree, who has wintered in Arizona for 15 years. "Now, I'm not so sure. Maybe it's time to invest in places that value us." The irony is hard to ignore. At a time when the US is trying to boost its economy and strengthen global partnerships, alienating its biggest customer and most loyal ally seems like a costly misstep. The Canadian boycott is more than just an economic protest, it's a demand to be seen and treated with respect. Will American leaders respond? Or will they brush it off, hoping Canadians quietly come back? That answer may shape not just the 2025 travel season, but the future of one of the world's most important bilateral relationships. Until then, Canadians are watching, waiting, and booking trips elsewhere. And if you're wondering how long this boycott will last, well, that depends on whether Washington realizes what it's losing before it's too late.